Yeah, welcome to another episode of Guide Live B2B Jam Session. Man, how are you all doing wherever you are tuning in from today? If you're in Oakland, show love to Oakland. Let's hear from you in the comments. If you're in Houston, show love to Houston because my lovely guest of today, Zach Nunn, is a brother that I've actually had the fortunate opportunity to know for about a few years now. I don't even remember how I met him. We just connected. And this man has been killing it. Zach is an organizational change management leader with a background in human resources. And one of the things in the movements that he's building is called Living Corporate, which is actually centered around the Black and Brown perspective and experiences of people in corporate America. And this movement, he's been building it for quite some time now, and he's going to talk all about it. But also, we're going to dive deep on some of the things going on in America right now. His thoughts on what corporations can do post COVID-19, think more about building an inclusive and equitable workforce. In addition to that, he'll share a little bit about his background prior to building Living Corporate. And we are just going to, have a great discussion, man. Every time I talk with them, it's a great discussion. So y'all are going to be a part of it. Tune in, ask questions, whatever your thoughts are. Make sure you share this with your network so they can find value from it. But it's going to be really, really fun. And with that said, let me bring on the homie, Zach. What's good, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you, man?
Man, look, man, I'm just over here with this dad life, man. I ain't got no child. You know what I'm saying?
You recently just had a newborn, right? Congratulations.
That's right, man. Yeah, a little girl named is Emery. She's 4 months old.
Yeah.
And so it's been a journey, man, trying to work from home with a baby. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I have had, my wife's cutting my hair now. She hasn't cut it in a month. She doesn't give me any edge ups. I do all my own facial, but I haven't touched nothing up for a while. So
I was in Texas for a little bit, man.
Oh, word?
Yeah, they got barbershops are open now out there, right?
Listen, I mean, barbershops are open, but ain't no vaccine, man.
You're not gonna.
I'm not gonna risk it, baby. People out here, man, it's death count too high. Around, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, smart, man.
I'm trying to chill. Yeah,
no, that's smart, man. But Zach, man, I would love for you to share with us, man, a little bit about your background. How and what inspired Living Corporate. I'm actually going to be sharing the link in the comments, so for those of you who want to check it out. But this movement is something that you've been building for quite some time now, man. But take us a little bit before that. How you got into the work that you do as an organizational change management leader, man.
Yeah. So, I think, going back, I've always been passionate about people. Right?
Yeah.
Like always. So like before I even got into organization change management, people and organization, whatever you want to call it. Right.
Yeah.
I was really like always involved in like community stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So like if it was like my local church when I was a kid to any type of like even like after school activities, band, music. So like even music was like I liked music because I liked how I could use music to connect with people. So like it was whatever I was doing was a vehicle to connect to people, right?
Yeah.
And so I started actually as a music major at University of Houston, and like was a music ed major. Played tuba, did some music arrangement, composition. But then I met the person who'd be my wife, and I was like, like they don't really be getting paid, and I'm trying to get a job. I just want to do this HR thing. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and change my major. So I changed my major.
Yeah.
Graduated a year early, and like first job straight out of college was HR manager at Target.
Wow.
That stuff was retail is for the birds. Like no shade to the people who choose to do that. It's just way too structured for me. Like didn't give me a lot of space to like create and like build things, which I also realized over time I like to do. I like to build stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, man. So I even knew back then. I was like human resources. So I had an idea of what I thought human resources was, which I thought human resources was about like promoting equity. I thought it was about like advocating for employees.
Yeah.
But like the reality is that human resources is really about like working on behalf of like the people in charge. So like your job is to like, there's systems in place. Your job is to keep all the employees within the confines of those systems. It's not really to like advocate for what's the right or ethical as much as it is to make sure that you're mitigating risk, litigious risk, brand damage risk for the company.
Yeah.
And that's not an attack to anybody. That's just the way it goes. We live in a capitalist system. You have to make sure there's certain things in place that there are certain mechanisms in place that drive money, and you need officers. You need people who are going to kind of like protect the guideposts of an organization to make sure that capital continues to come in. And so I think human resources kind of functions almost kind of like the officer, like the police of a company, to make sure people just stay in line. So anyway, so like 8 months in, I was like, it's for the birds. I'm not doing this. Like, got me wrong. So I quit. Wow. I quit. I get into organizational development in oil and gas. So my contractor at this point. So at Target, I was making like $45,000. No, $44,000. Yeah. They give me a little increase to $45,000. Oh shoot.
You were lit.
I was, because I don't know what anything is. Like, that's a lot of money, to me. Yeah. So my checks are like $1,400 every 2 weeks. And I'm just like, man, I'm, because I had 2 roommates at a time now. But then I got a raise. Because I became a contractor in oil and gas. So like, didn't have any benefits, but it didn't matter because I was 22 years old. So like, I just had I was on my mom's healthcare. Didn't matter. So I went from making $45,000 to $66,000. Now that was crazy. I was like, that's when I was like happy, right? And the work I was doing there was more creative, right? Like I was able to like actually like build things. Like I was able to work with a wide array of people. Like there was my audience was more global. So like I just got to experience more and just see more. And so it's a little bit of time kept on going. And I continue to be the only black man in all these spaces that I'm in. And I'm starting to see things, right? Like I'm like, okay, wait, why am I working this hard? I'm a contractor. I'm trying to get full time. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get full time. Yeah. Why am I having to do all this stuff? Yeah. To be full time when I'm looking at these people that come in from A&M who can't even spell human resources, and they get a full time job. Like, why is that? Or like, why is it that somebody over here can make a wild mistake and like no one cares, but like if I forget to put a period in an email, it's a huge problem. Like what? Like, so it's like, so I'm kind of like, because again, I'm younger at this time. So I keep on going. I'm doing my thing. My contract ends. I get into, I become an HR business partner for a startup. Most racist environment of all time. Like, wow. I'm talking about the CEO calling me and my boss, who was a black man at the time, calling us apes and stuff, just crazy stuff.
Wow.
Wild behavior. So
how did you handle it at that time, man?
I mean, there were moments, right, where like, so I never stepped outside of, like, I'm never gonna let anybody jack my bag up. So like I never, responded in kind. Yeah. There were moments where I would be like, I think the most I've ever done has been like, look, I think one time I was just like, look, I need you to slow down and let me know who you're talking to. I think like that's the most aggressive I've ever gotten. I was like, I need you to help me understand who is it that you think you're talking to. And so then like that's probably the most confrontational thing that's ever happened. And they backed down or whatever. But look, the point is that company went up in smoke. Poop. Yeah. Like whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? It was whatever. It wasn't, the leadership was crazy. They weren't going to be able to take it to IPO anyway. So, whatever. So, yeah. So then I get into consulting, and like, it's just the same series of things, man, where it's like, look, I come into a space, I create something, I'm building, I'm grinding. I notice these patterns of inequity. And I'm just kind of like, what is this? Right. Like I'm noticing I'm being treated either as a threat or as a problem or as like, whatever. And I'm seeing that like over and over and over. And then when I talk to the black people, they're kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. Right. I'm going through the same thing. And so, man, like, I had to look up, and because despite all these like crazy situations, like God continued to bless me. Like I continue to move up in my career. And so like, I was like, well, what does it look like for everybody who isn't as fortunate as me? who isn't as gregarious as me, who isn't as like enterprising and resilient. Like, and I'm not trying to say like I'm just some superhero, because I'm not. But like everybody isn't blessed with the same scenarios to like still come out and things work out.
Yeah, and to a degree, that's you recognizing your privilege too.
Facts. True.
Yeah.
True. So then I'm kind of like, okay, what do I do? Like, and what does it look like to have authentic, frank conversations about being one of the onlys in a space? Like, but not at like some super elitist dinner or exclusive event where only the talented 10th can go. Like, what does it look like to democratize that information, right? And so that's where Living Corporate came from. So Living Corporate, our tagline is real talk in a corporate world. So like we say corporate America, but we just mean 9 to 5. If you have a 9 to 5 or you want to have a 9 to 5, this content is for you. So everybody has a job because we live in a capitalist society. So so most of us work in some capacity, hourly, contract, full-time, whatever. So, we have these conversations. You've been on the podcast a couple times, right?
Yep.
And we talk about, man. And so we talk about, like, real stuff. Like it's like, honestly, the content's fairly evergreen. We just happen to be centering Black and brown people in the content. What I'm really proud about Living Corporate, a couple things is, one, it's not just me on a podcast, like railing against something, right? Like we're having like authentic quality level discussions about real topics. And we hold ourselves accountable to that by bringing on incredible guests, right? So we've had executives, elected officials, entrepreneurs, public speakers, authors, influencers, activists, whatever. And we do that every single week. So it's not like, every now and then we're going to bring on a guest. No, every single week we bring on an incredible guest, right? And so like when they check out the link, they'll see, and they click network, they'll see all these brands that have been on Living Corporate, from Twitter to Facebook to Zillow to Google to Accenture, Capgemini, Cognizant, Fortune, Forbes.
A great place to work. Which is like an amazing brand.
A great place to work, man. We had Michael C. Bush, the CEO of Great Place to Work on Living Corporate. Yeah, man. So and I think the other thing is that like we don't consider ourselves a podcast. Like we consider ourselves a database, an ever-growing database of thought leadership around diversity, equity, inclusion, because you're not going to go anywhere else on the internet. Like I've checked, yes, that's right, y'all. I've checked the entire internet. Okay. And there's no and there's no one else. Like there's nothing else that's going to have all this content, over 251 episodes and dozens of blogs, 251 podcasts, dozens of blogs, that's going to have consistently Black and brown and or white aspirational allies on a platform organized and categorized by theme and by industry. And so like if you type in intersectionality, you're going to get 18 different podcasts to come up and 3 different blogs, right? You type in gay at work, you're going to get 20, 30 different points of content. So right, it's really like it's a database, right? Like our goal is to really become like the Google of diversity, equity, inclusion, where you type in anything and you're going to get something meaningful back. Our next step and our vision is to really like productize all the content that we have by turning all those transcripts, because we transcribed everything. That's why that's why it's searchable, right?
Yeah. So
I want to productize it by turning it into taking all that content and turning it into learning modules. Right.
So what's really powerful about it is that it's very human. You've humanized the content too, because I remember even when I was on your podcast, man, the conversation was just free flowing. It felt like you're making it much more accessible and taking away from, let's just have these conversations in the corporate environment, but rather let's humanize it and bring a face to it.
Right. I mean, because the reality is, man, like people not trying to have like these like super stuffy. I mean, they're not real, right? Like they're not authentic conversations. Yeah. So like people are not out here trying to have these stuffy discussions. We want to talk about the real at work and what it really means, man, to like really navigate these spaces. Like my thought is I want to take the conversations that me and you would have while we're like drinking or smoking, and I want to take that and put that like on a podcast, right? Like I want to have a conversation.
Or drinking tea.
Yeah. I want to have a real conversation, man. I want to have a conversation about like, I want to have the conversations that we don't have at work. I want to have those conversations. Because like, what's the point? Like, I'm not trying to waste my time. Like living corporate has been like a labor of love. Like I put in mad dollars and time into this. So like, if I'm gonna sit down and have a conversation with you, then I'm gonna have the conversation I want to have. I'm not gonna have the conversation that I could have at work, because like we have the diversity and inclusion stuff at work. We have the hold your hands, and you have Black people crying at work, talking about how upset they are at work. It's like, no, I'm not trying to. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to bring on. If I'm gonna bring on a white person, I'm gonna hold you accountable and ask you, what are you doing with your privilege and whiteness to mobilize equity at work? If I have a Black person on, I'm not gonna spend the whole time of us crying. Like it's okay to cry, like it's because we're hurting. So that's not. But what I'm saying is, we're gonna have a conversation about what does structures look like.
Yeah.
What is racism? How is racism mobilized at work? Like that's the kind of conversation I want to have. And what's cool about it is that there are white folks who listen to Living Corporate, and they use it as a point of education.
That's good.
And it helps them, like it upskills them, right? That's why I'm talking about that whole like productizing it and like turning it into like really taking that content and like taking it to the next level, where we have where you can, it's a platform you log into and you really can like formally learn something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and it's so powerful too, because what you said about it allows people who aren't familiar with this work to use your work and really humanize their workforce and start bringing more of those equitable policies into place. And I want to dive deep on that with you, man. I think right now, after COVID-19 overlays with the killings of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, how do you see organizations? What are some solutions that organizations can bring into their workforce? 3 solutions to start creating equitable practices, man.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So, I mean, first is you need to hire Black specialists to come in and do an actual organizational diagnostic of your of your company, right? So like so many people, when you talk about like data analytics, so people say, it's something about like, because folks don't think about race, or they just don't think intersectionally. There are certain ways that they don't even look at the data. So like, it's important for you to bring in some people coming in. And I think, again, Black people, Black and brown people who are data analytics experts, because there's plenty of space out there. Like the Winners Group is a really good example of this. Like people out here who do like the analytics to really look at like your data, and not just by race and by gender, but like by like taking layers of data at the same time, and like doing like doing multi-bifurcated analysis. Not multi-bifurcated, but you know what I mean. Like you're looking at the data from multiple lenses at the same time. So like that's the first thing you need to do, is like get some specialists to come in who can really like say, look, this is where y'all are. So it's not just having conversations. That's important. They need to definitely interview your staff, interview your organization, even your leaders, but they also need to do the hard quantitative work, understand where you are. So that's the first thing they need to do. Second thing they need to do is whoever is in charge of, if they don't have a diversity, equity, inclusion office, let's say if they don't have that, then they need to go ahead and invest in that. And like, again, I really think it's important to work with like Black consultants who are in this space, who like really know what they're doing and who can help build that office for you.
Yeah. And, I think it's funny because we've been building Guide for over a year and a half now. And I mean, for us, from day one, we've been thinking about how are we building an inclusive organization from day one, from the ground up, and from our advisory board to even how we're thinking about hiring, how we're thinking about our product and our community. Those have been on our minds since day one. And I think one of the things that often scares me when you see a lot of larger enterprise organizations is that's an afterthought. Like what comes first is like the capital, and then diversity, equity, inclusion is like
last, if on the list at all.
Yeah. But I think we're moving towards a world now where it's going to be much more multicultural, and you definitely want to make sure you're marketing, you're selling business to a diverse population, and your organization reflects that, because your audience and your community is holding you accountable.
They are, right? And it's crazy because like what people don't think about is like, man, not only is you're right, like it's not only about your employees, but it's like, man, because me, I'm not buying from people. If I find out, let's say, like you're 100% right. If I find out there's a brand out there that is like harming black people,
Yeah.
or don't create equitable access to black people, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do the best I can to not support that brand. Like
Yeah.
I'm like that's off top. Like I'm just not.
Yeah.
And like that's just me with my little old dollars. But like the reality is there's a larger population out there who aren't just black and brown people. There are conscious or at least aspirationally conscious white consumers out there who have way more capital,
Yeah.
who are like, yo, I'm just not, so like you're 100% right. I think that like I also think because of social media, I think it's just really easy now, and just the internet. It's easy now to like point out like when people are being performative, right?
Yeah.
So like, what I really liked is calling out these big brands who put out these statements, but then when you go and you look at, like you just said, their advisory boards, or you can kind of like go and search like their contracts and see like who they've been working with, and like if they've been, like there are consulting firms out there who are like putting out these huge statements, right? But then you find out they've been like contracting with ICE, so it's like. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about actually? Like, like it's not authentic. And what happens when you do that, when you jump out there talking about Black Lives Matter, but then you show that you don't care about Black lives at your job, in your company, in your business practices, as a from like a social impact or like just as a business community leader, like you actually end up harming yourself, right? You go backwards. You would have been better just to not say nothing and take the initial hit of being quiet. But now you got out there loud talking about you care about Black Lives Matter, and now people found you out, and now you've lost mad shares in the market because people calling you a fraud, and people are they're going to boycott you and blast you. So you're right. You're right is my point.
Yeah. It's like there's this slippery slope, and we've definitely, I think, seen a lot of performative marketing in the last few months. And it's sad, right? Because I think that's not the best way to market. And even for us, I mean, we didn't even share anything around, I mean, we're a Black-owned business, but we didn't share anything around, we support the Black Lives Matter movements, because that should be just inherent part of your cultural identity as an organization.
Exactly. Living Corporate. So Living Corporate is Black-owned because I own it, and I'm Black.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, had it been a team of us, like had it been a team of owners, we wouldn't drop anything about. We show you that Black Lives Matter every single day.
Yeah.
Like, you can even question us. You should never even doubt the question where we stand on Black Lives Matter. And that's the other thing too, is folks out here just rushing.
Yeah.
I also think the other thing is that some of these companies, man, you can tell by just the way that they brand and they market, just think that Black people are stupid. Yeah. Like the way that they market, some of it has been so over the top, but it's just like, I mean, like, do you actually think that we're like mentally deficient? Because like we can actually we peep game, like we've seen through y'all for years. Like this is not a, you know what I'm saying? So you asked for two things. So then you asked for three things. So the third thing is, so again, it's like hiring a consulting group to come in and do a true analysis, like top to bottom analysis of your organization. The second thing is if you don't have one, to stand up an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and do that under the partnership and direction of a Black consulting firm who does this work.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, man, because all of y'all got it. Every company has it. Whatever unconscious bias training, diversity, equity, inclusion, like whatever training y'all got right now, dead it, kill it, stop. Kill it, stop it, don't stop.
Why do you say that, brother?
Because it's trash. It's trash. Cheeks, booty cheeks, Rakishi. It's terrible. Don't do it. Stop. Whatever training you have, I'm serious. I bet. Like whoever's bring your training up to me. Yeah. I'm telling you, 9 times out of 9, your training is gonna be trash. So you should just start over and invest in new content. And frankly, if you were to like listen to like people like Chris Moreland of Vizient, he's the chief, he's inclusion officer, equity and inclusion officer at Vizient, or Dr. Pamela Newkirk, author of Diversity Inc. Plenty of people out there will tell you that diversity inclusion training is a scam anyway. So you should probably just stop doing that. You should really like work with an organization to rethink and reimagine what learning looks like today around workplace equity. So those would be my three things, man. So like you'll notice I said, so it's like analyze, build, and dismantle. Like you should dismantle, and frankly, and I'm gonna just throw a bonus in there for free. Believe the Black people when they tell you what you should do. Like when they say, "Hey, we're looking at these policies and they don't really make sense," or you think really, you have some problems. Do it. Like when they tell you, you should like go do that thing. Like you should go listen. You should listen to them. I think that's my issue is like with America, like as a whole, but like it seeps into corporate America too. We don't listen to two major groups of people. We don't listen to Black and brown people, and we don't listen to women, and we certainly don't listen to Black and brown women. When we tell you something, believe us the first time. Believe us the first time, right? And that goes with consultants too. So that's my answer.
No, that's powerful. That's a powerful answer, man. And it's I think what we saw with what we've been seeing in the last 3 months is a transition point, I believe, in just culture as well as in business. And it's funny. It's really powerful that you say this because I think us having these very raw, candid conversations now, it's expected. People are saying, "Oh, this is now the time." But you all in Living Corporate have been doing this years.
Listen, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. Yeah, we've been doing this. I think that's the other thing too. Is wild. Is like I'm seeing like this like I don't know. It's like even within like the diversity, equity, inclusion space, right? Like there's these pockets of people who will basically be like, diversity inclusion isn't just about race and gender. It's also about if you like to eat hot dogs, or maybe they like hamburgers, and you got to figure out what you like to eat. It's like, no, actually, that's not. You're wrong. You've been wrong for a while, and you reinforce white supremacy when you do that. Yeah. And but like you see a lot of people trying to kind of do like this pivot of like, oh, now we care about race. And like, I want to be clear, like Living Corporate, it's not like we just talk about Black and brown. We talk about gay Black and brown, trans Black and brown, disabled Black and brown. We talk about first gen Black and brown. You know what I mean? We talk about big, tall, short, fat Black and brown. We talk about all types of Black and brown, but we're talking about Black and brown because I mean, that's the premise in which we function as a country, like we just do. And so I think for me, what's been particularly disgusting, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not gonna make it hot on your podcast, but I've had people hit me up asking me, can you come and do this? Can you speak here? Can you contribute to my paper? I'm like, no. People ask to come on Living Corporate. White people who have no track record at all of like, doing this work, all of a sudden want to come and tell my audience why racial diversity is important. It's like, look, one, you haven't done the research. You probably just figured out that our platform is growing, so you're trying to get on. But if you did any research at all, you would know that we've been talking about the importance of centering and amplifying marginalized Black and brown voices for over 2 years, and consistently at that. So I appreciate you for shouting that out because I think that's another thing that's important is like when these companies, as folks are reaching out and researching as who they should bring in, who they should talk to, they need to like look at the receipts. Yeah. Right. If your stuff is popping off in February, if I can't see anything from you and like you just started in like May,
something's not right.
Come on.
All right. Yeah. So I want to ask you, man, who have been some of the organizations that you've either worked with or that you're seeing that are actually driving this work right, and they're putting it in the right direction or are really making a consummate effort?
Yeah. So, man, so the first one I gotta say is the Winners Group. So I'll start with like consulting firms, right? So the Winners Group is a beast. Like shout out to Mary Frances Winters, shout out to Brittany J. Harris and the whole leadership group over there. They do phenomenal work, and they've been doing phenomenal work. Really focused on like understanding the function of diversity, equity, inclusion being like an aim towards justice. So like that's great. Another consulting group I would say is Michelle J. Kim with Awaken.co. Really good work. think about when I think about consultants. I think about like Amy C. Waninger. She's a consultant talking about inclusive leadership. And if when y'all look at the pictures, you'll see that's the first white woman that I've mentioned. It's because Amy C. Waninger is like very sensitive about recognizing to decenter herself. So, so Lead at Any Level is the name of her company. Great work. I want to shout out Vonda Page at PayPal. Beast.
Yeah.
Beast. Super beast. I respect her a lot. So yeah, now I'm gonna go into people because I got mad love. Gary Cooper with Amazon. Great guy. Good work. Because he's talking, because they're like these people in this corporate context, they understand the concept of like dismantling systems. So like that's important, which is rare to see in like corporate in these big organizations, but they're out there. And then when you think about like health, like anything around like healthcare disparities, things of that nature, Dr. Oni and Dr. Uche Blackstock, they're twin sisters. Both of them are doctors. Beasts, so good. And then Dr. Aaron Thomas with Upwork. Dr. Aaron Thomas with Upwork, man. Listen, if there's one voice who understands like the corporate systems, you want to talk about like the science of like how systems work and like understanding like again, like the organizational implications of different racialized problems. Dr. Aaron Thomas, genius. I'm serious, like a beast. She frankly, like out of everybody's, like in terms of like let's say if I was to pick one individual, Dr. Aaron Thomas. Aubrey, hold on, Aubrey, or is it Audrey? Because I keep on messing her name up.
It's Aubrey.
Aubrey Blanche.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had a really dope conversation. We're gonna drop that interview soon.
Shout out to Aubrey. She's such a phenomenal woman. She's out here in Oakland.
Actually. She's a beast. I have mad respect for her too. So like,
she's so positive too.
so positive, but she's raw though. I like it.
It's authentic. And I think
good. It's good for my soul. It's good.
Like a lot of people that you meet in the DEI space, a lot of them, some of them are like really stuck up and very like it's always like, bro, it's like this is really simple.
I'll be getting off the phone so fast with them people. They be talking to me all fancy. I'm like, we get that highfalutin language up out of here, man. I ain't trying to talk to you, man. Come on, let's have an actual conversation. Black and brown people out here hurting. Let's have an actual discussion about. Yeah, come on. So look, Culture Amp's anti-racism strategy is crazy. It's so good. It's like, and I think that's the thing about Culture Amp and Upwork is that they take their resource and they're all available. So like you can just like they're all just on their website. So like leaders can take it and pull. I could keep on going, but like when I think about like the big names, I mean I could shout out some individuals like Matamba Austin. Matamba Austin is a senior partner with in Big Four Consulting, but his background and understanding is like healthcare, and mergers and acquisitions and deals. So like, but he's really been focused on like health inequities right now. And like just a beast, and because of his background and the way that he operates within like in his sphere, he understands like the business implications of it too. And so like everybody that I've talked about, like they combine like the heart feeling of it with like tactical, practical steps and recommendations and thought leadership around like how to like impact systems. So that's my list, man. That's a really good question though. I gotta stay on my toes with you. That was a good question.
Nah, it's true. It's true. No, because I think we have to talk about it, man. We have to talk about it, and more importantly, I think people that are listening within our guide community need to follow and see this work. Because Audrey, we see her work, but there's so many organizations that need to see her work, and I think people think that it's not possible to think from an inclusive and equitable lens. But there's so many from a living corporate to you, to Audrey, to books and literature content, movement
content, which is crazy.
Free content that can really help you open your eyes to this lens. And I think for me, fundamentally, what I often tell people is I see it as a design problem. Is that people just aren't, a lot of leaders, especially when you think about we're a startup. When you think about a startup leading to an enterprise is so complex that it's so hard to like just nail the problem. And then most startups, if they're just started by white males and the people who are investing in these startups don't think about it from an inclusive lens, from day one, it's not going to be thought about, right? And it goes down to a design problem and then a leadership problem, right?
Right. So, and I think that's why like it's important that people get challenged and educated on like where they're. So I'm trying not to use. So I'm trying to like also change some of my language because there's feedback actually from like the blind community that the term blind spots can be offensive, right? So like I'm trying to think, but there are certain deficiencies that we don't know about, right? Just because of our own lived experience, there are things that we just miss, and so it's important that early in the game, like you just said early in the conversation, you said like DEI be like not even on the list, right? Not even like up there. It's just important. It's just important that like that starts at the top, because by the time you start thinking about DEI, you've already built all of these different systems. And like, so like we start adding an afterthought, then you bring in people. Then so you add it as an afterthought after you've already built all this stuff. And now like your leadership, like these people these resources that you brought in are like, they're not even equipped to even handle, like they're starting off at a negative, because they're having to now upend things that had you brought them in earlier, they could have just set up a foundation and kind of like guided the process, right? So that's, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. It's powerful because, what we're noticing now too is that now that you're, the world is much more remote, you're going to have to think differently about how you, approach DEI training. Right? Like you're really going to have to encourage proactive self-initiation of your workforce. What are your 2 to 3 tips for leaders who are leading remote organizations on how they should approach creating an inclusive organization in a remote first world?
That's a really good question. Yeah. So, I think it's about understanding that you're not going to get it right first. You're going to mess up. In fact, and that like failing is okay if you have the resilience to like continue forward. I think the challenge is like, again, like I'm kind of going back to capitalism for a reason, is that like we're so focused on outputs and like just kind of like producing that when we fail, we like it becomes like a cataclysmic thing when it's like, you have to fail so that you can, like, that's a failure is a function of learning. So like, you're going to try something, you may try something and it may not go well, but you use it as a lesson forward and you try something else again. And I think being inclusive in like share your failures, right? So like, if you're a leader, again, we're talking about we're in a remote world. The benefit of also being in a remote world is you have Google right in front of you. Like there's no excuse. You're not walking around the corner. Just look something up, like research something, pull in somebody, ask a question, like engage these different learning platforms and boards and communities, and just ask and just research. So like that takes time and it takes labor and effort, because not only the effort to like do the work, but also like the emotional effort to like ask and like ask and maybe get an answer that you don't really like, or get an answer that's not really that effective, and try that. So it's like, I think like that's like my main, bit of feedback. And I think the other thing is like to decenter yourself, right? Like we live in like this, like really like, again, like narcissistic, like selfish society, culture, whatever. Yeah. So we want to make ourselves like the hero and the solution to a lot of things. But like the reality is you don't know. And it's okay. And also it's not about you, right? It's about the people that you're serving as a leader. So kind of like, it's like being willing to like kind of kill your ego. I'm not trying to be like Eastern whatever. Like I'm not trying to be like, I'm just saying but you have to decenter yourself. I think that's why diversity, equity, inclusion as a space has historically failed, is because you have a lot of white people who continue to center whiteness, and they center whiteness in their language, they center whiteness in their activities, and they center whiteness in their strategies and methodologies. And so what happens is the people that you supposedly, again, allegedly, supposedly want to serve end up being thrown to the wayside. And the same thing can happen in this right now, in this moment, is like, if you try to figure out a way to like preserve yourself, preserve your ego, preserve your power or the perception of power or influence that you think you have, whatever that is, your own like image that you created for yourself, if you try to preserve that in this work in this moment right now in the middle of a pandemic, we're one of the most worst economically turbulent times since like 1929. Like it's just not going to work right now. It didn't work before, but we have less the distractions and variables are different now. And people are not going to be here for your antics. Like you need to radically change as a leader to make sure that you're getting the best out of your teams.
Man, powerful. I want to show love to our amazing community. Shout out to Mrs. Rogers. Shout out to Sarah tuning in from LinkedIn.
What's up, Sarah?
Marketing is a perfect term. Performative marketing is a perfect term. So we hit the nail right on the head on that one. Sarah Rogers saying, yes, there's so many passive consumers who do not look into the morality of their choices. How do company statements actually show up in the actions of a company? How are you feeling about this, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think it's easy to put together like a quick statement on something.
Yeah.
But like the reality is, if your company has been historically harming certain population groups or your own employees, for like, I don't know, some of these companies are like mad old, so it's like it's hard. It's like it's just that's hard. That's hard work. Like that's hard work because you have to ask yourself, okay, well, wait a second. If we've been like disproportionately denying access to these population groups for 50 years, then I mean. And how can we really fix that? Really, I don't know. That would mean that we'd have to, change our leadership and fire a bunch of people and then like create all new policies, which would cost a lot of money because we'd have to do a bunch of analysis, blah, 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 blah. Instead, we're just going to put out this little email that says Black Lives Matter. Yeah. So I think, because white corporate America does not care about Black people, we don't spend the effort. We don't see these organizations spending the effort and money to like really fix these problems. So like that's the truth, because like we've seen companies put out mad money, crazy money when they want to fix something, right? So a lot of them don't really care, and that's like a harsh reality and gut check to come to. But it's important in this moment to like kind of to deal with that, and then like and organizations that have the courage to do it. And there's some out there that are growing and changing. Like, I'm not trying to demonize anybody.
Yeah.
But like, it's taking that, like Sarah was talking about, it's like really, looking into the morality of their choices. But that means you got to look in the mirror. And if you don't like the way you look, you might kind of avoid the mirror when you walk by it,
Yeah. And I think a lot of organizations are taking a hard look at the mirror right now. It's always great talking with you, Zach. You always, it's always great talking, because I think it's the rawness and candidness and how you approach the work that you do is really breathtaking, and it's refreshing, because a lot of people they try to make it more complex than it is, and even
it's not complex. It's hard, but it's not complex. It is hard.
It's hard, but it's not complex. And I think the best time we can actually help organizations is when you're at the early stages, when you're a startup or like, you're looking to grow. But even when you're a large organization, you should be thinking from this lens in everything you do. And I think one of the things I've been loving is seeing some of the organizations, the top enterprises such as a Microsoft, LinkedIn, they're dropping statements, but I think they're also putting actions behind their statements and saying supplier side, vendor side, how we think long term. I think when you're large and you're so big, it's so much harder to create that change, but you being very intentional about it and actually making those statements is how you kickstart the change.
Listen, man, these companies out here solve crazy problems every single day, or that's what they tell us.
Yeah.
So you should, like, again, if you care, you'll make a change. Like it's not even like it's not really more complex than that, because we've seen you guys, man, some of these companies, man, like think about some of the products that we've seen, like some of the innovation that comes out of these tech companies is just crazy.
Wild.
Wild. They be out here building all kinds of stuff. We got robots out here jumping and climbing over fences. You telling me you can't? Come on, man. You got self-driving cars. You got, I'm just saying, like we like I'll take it back to 1969. We shot a whole ship up into space. Like, come on, man. And then took the parts back from space and then used it again. Like, come on, like we can do a lot. Like we just like it's about effort and intentionality, man. If we care, we'll do it.
It's so true, brother. So true. Zach, man, where can our community follow your movement and learn more about what's next with Living Corporate?
Yeah, so look, living-corporate.com and living-corporate.com. Okay. And if you just type in Living Corporate, we'll pop up. But we're all over, man. You know, check us out. We have a webinar starting, like literally launching tomorrow with Maureen Green James, who's an executive leader, speaker, educator, mentor, coach. But we have a lot of content, like a lot. So check us out on the website, living, Living, living dash, please say the dash, corporate.com. And yeah, man, that's us, man. You can check us out. You can subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to reading lists, check out the podcast, check out our blogs. You can subscribe to everything. Like we got you. And you also make sure you sign up for the webinar that launches tomorrow.
Love it. Love it. So final word goes to the amazing Sarah Rogers. It seems like many people do things, say things, create programs for the credit of doing it to save face. This is true in so many sectors of our communities, inclusion in the workplace, environmentalism, etc. It feels like dismantling the already existing programs is the only way to upend the control that leaders in these organizations feel over change for the better, to realize that diversity, equity, inclusion is not something you can accomplish by slamming down some rules and words. Hey, Sarah, you're deep. That is
Sarah's right. Sarah's right. That's the only way. The only way they're really going to see real change and revolution in this work is to dismantle what we have.
Yeah.
Like it's obvious that what we have isn't effective. So we need to just try something else. And it's okay. Like, I think that's the other funny thing is that like, we act as if that's not as if building something new is just out with beyond question. It's not. Like, you know, there are things I'm doing I never get, man. Like and it's funny because as kids we learn this. Yeah. As kids we build and dismantle and then rebuild things all the time. Like
we design stuff.
Yeah, we design stuff. Like, you know, with Tinker Toys or Legos, we don't need an instruction manual. We get the Legos. We have our little, we push stuff out the way. We pour the Legos because mine went in this big old tin. I'd pour the Legos on the carpet, and I would build something. I'd be like, this rocket ship kind of lame. Crank, 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 crank. I just beat it back up. It's okay. And I think that's okay here too. But people have to be willing to reject again their own ego, their own fragility, their own entitlement and laziness, and do it.
Powerful, brother. Powerful. Zach, thank you so much, brother, for joining us. We need to have you on a future episode. What do you think, my brother?
I'm here, man. Whatever. I'm here. You've been on at least like what 2, 3 of mine, and I mean, I at least owe you at least 2 more.
Bro, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for all the work that you do, man. You are truly humbling and an inspirational figure. You're someone I'm always following. Just like, man, what's Zach doing next, man? So, I think just thank you for leading your movement, brother. Really,
I appreciate you, man. I'm humbled. I'm flattered by the compliments. I'm gonna just take them on their face and smile. and yeah, man, we'll catch up, bro. I appreciate you. I'll catch you later.
Of course, brother. Be well, man. Talk soon.
Peace.
With that said, thank you so much for tuning in on another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide live podcast, B2B jam session. We were just talking to the amazing Zach Nunn. Please definitely check out his Living Corporate movement. He's an amazing leader who's doing a lot of amazing work, really showcasing and highlighting the struggles and the insights that Black and brown people in corporate America see and are learning, and what they're doing to create a more equitable workforce within their organizations or in their respective communities. So definitely make sure you check out Zach out. He's super active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and he's an amazing guy to talk with. Much love to everyone who is showing love and actually tuning in and discussing on this episode. Our beta is gradually expanding. We already have 20 customers within our beta, and we're gradually expanding it every single day. So if you want to be a part of the Guide movement, definitely check out guideapp.co, sign up for our early access, and let us know what you think, because we'll definitely be gradually releasing it out to you soon. With that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Once again, as we go into the weekend, I want to encourage you, please take some time off, go outside, enjoy yourself, drink some water, laugh with some friends, and more importantly, love, do something good. And as always, peace, love, and abundance. Talk to you soon. Peace.